What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I am back with another video here. Wow. As of recent, a renowned boxing trainer has come back to the scenes and is back on top once again. Eddy Reynoso. It's been a while since he has received the recognition and he has gotten his flowers that he deserves for the ability that he has to train fighters at the elite level, and not just train fighters at the elite level, but have them perform at the elite level, and besides performing, have them come out victorious. Most recently, Jaime Munguia, becoming a world champion once again after 8 years, securing a victory over Armando Resendiz, a fight that many people consider it to be a 50-50 fight. I am one of them. I thought it was to be a 50-50 fight. I wouldn't have been surprised if Munguia won or Resendiz. I was surprised of how dominant Munguia looked, how impressive he looked with his new defensive skills and his new ability that he was able to, put onto display under the guidance of Reynoso. And recently, Frank Sanchez securing a big win and making a big statement over Richard Torres in what was a heavyweight fight for the IBF title eliminator. Eddy Reynoso, if I'm not mistaken, in 2018 he had big success, a lot of success with a lot of his fighters. And if not 2018, if I'm not mistaken, it could have been 2020. I don't recall exactly the year, but it was between that gap between 2018 to 2022 where his fighters really shined. Fighters like Oscar Valdez, Ryan Garcia, Andy Ruiz, Canelo Alvarez. He had a lot of great fighters, a lot of great talent. He had the best fighters in basically all the weight classes, whether it was the middleweight division, the lightweight division, the super featherweight, the heavyweight. He had at least one of the top fighters or top rated contenders in each weight class. Whether it was Ryan Garcia at that time he was fighting in the lightweight division, or whether it was Oscar Valdez, he has secured a big win over the WBC super featherweight champion then Miguel Burchell. Um, but in 2022, I guess you could say he hit rock bottom with a lot of his fighters. Um, Oscar Valdez would, come up short against Shakur Stevenson in a title unification match. Canelo Alvarez would lose against Dimitri Bivol, and Julio Cesar Martinez would lose against Chocolatito Gonzalez. And it was, if I'm not mistaken, the first half of the year that all these defeats took place for the Reynoso camp. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that year Frank Sanchez would leave Reynoso for Joe Goosen. The following year in 2023, Oscar Valdez will suffer his second defeat under Reynoso against Emmanuel Navarrete. So Eddy Reynoso was getting a lot of criticism saying that he threw away the career of many fighters, that he was only a good trainer with Canelo, that he only could have success with Canelo, and that with other fighters he failed. But we got to keep in mind that fighters tend to lose, and unfortunately, the trainer cannot fight for you. The trainer can give you advice, but if you don't have the ability to be able to perform to the expectations, then it's unfortunate. But when something goes south, the person that they look to blame is the trainer. But when something goes great or when something goes right, the person that should also receive all the flowers is Eddy Reynoso, and rightfully, he has so. Evidently, a lot of boxing pages have given him his flowers, have given him the recognition that he deserves, for guiding as of recent Jaime Munguia and Frank Sanchez to victories once again. It looks like the Reynoso camp is back on top. Canelo Alvarez is looking to make his return to the ring against the WBC super middleweight champion Christian Mbili, and news is lingering that Isaac Pipo Cruz has left his dad to now join the Reynoso camp as well. So it seems that Reynoso's camp is back on top again, and it happens. Every trainer is at the top of his game at one point, and every trainer hits rock bottom with his fighters. Fighters end up losing under trainers, and it's part of life. Ups and downs. We can talk about my mentor, Buddy McGurr. At one point in the early 2000s, he was on top of the world as well, with fighters like Arturo Gotti, Vernon Forrest. At the time, if I'm not mistaken, he also had Johnny Tapia, Antonio Tarver, Hasim Rockman, Oliver McHale, Joel Casamayor. He had a lot of great fighters under his stable, and he was named Trainer of the Year in the early 2000s. At one point, Robert Garcia was on top of the world as well, with fighters like Brandon Rios, Marcos Maidana, Mikey Garcia, Evgeny Gradovich, Nonito Donaire. A couple of years would go by, and a lot of his big name fighters would end up going to different trainers or would end up losing or retiring. That was like in the mid, in the mid, I'm gonna say in the mid 2010s, like 2015, 2014, where his stable wasn't doing that great. Um, so it happens. Derek James, at one point, he was considered again trainer of the year, guiding Errol Spence to many unification victories. Jermel Charlo becoming undisputed in the junior middleweight division. His rising star prospect Frank Martin, and then come 2020, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was 2023. Again, a lot of defeats took place in his stable. Errol Spence lost in the undisputed showdown against Terrence Crawford. Um, uh, Jamal Charlo would lose against Canelo, and Frank Martin would suffer a knockout defeat against Tank Davis. So it's I think that fight took place in 2024 if I recall. But it's part of the boxing game. Every fight, every trainer rises, and every trainer hits rock bottom, and then they come back again. They come back up once again, and this is the case with Eddy Reynoso. I think the way his fighters are performing and the results that he is getting with his fighters, I think he could possibly be a candidate for trainer of the year. I mean, we're only a couple months into the year, almost halfway through the year, but he already has, big wins with his stable, and he still has the rest of the year to go. We could possibly see Jaime Munguia unify against the new WBO super middleweight champion Hamza Shiraz, or maybe against the IBF super middleweight champion Oseleis Iglesias. I do see Canelo Alvarez coming up victorious, so I wouldn't actually mind seeing Eddy Reynoso being a candidate for trainer of the year. I think he's in the right path to be a candidate, and if he does end up winning trainer of the year, uh by the way that his fighters are looking right now, I mean, there's no doubt why he wouldn't get it, or why he shouldn't be close to getting it. So, you know, I noticed that as a recent Reynoso's camp is on top once again, and it's coming back up once again. It's climbing up the ladder. So, happy for him, happy for Reynoso's camp, and I wish him nothing but the best. And like I said, I actually wouldn't be surprised if he is considered trainer of the year once again, especially how Jaime Munguia performed and the big win that Frank Sanchez recently had. Frank Sanchez has now been positioned as the mandatory challenger for the IBF heavyweight title, currently being held by Alexander Usyk. And like I said, Munguia becoming world champion once again after 8 years in a fight that a lot of people saw at 50-50. And a lot of people picked Resendiz to win against Munguia. And Munguia showed tremendous improvement, tremendous ability. He showed tremendous boxing skills, a lot of improvement. So, congratulations to Eddy Reynoso. He's done a tremendous job throughout his career as a coach, and as of recent, his teachings are showing through his fighters. That was it for this video, guys. I wanted to leave that out there because, like I said, the Reynoso camp is looking well, and I wanted to give them their recognition that they deserve, and that's the reason for this. All right, guys.